Well, hello, community. Got some pretty exciting news about our new digestive bitters our digestive bitters that just been launched. If you're on our mailing list, you might have seen our email that went out. And yeah, we formulated the before and after, so before a meal and after a meal. I want to tell you a little bit more about the benefits of digestive bitters, like what's the big deal about it. And it really have quite a lot of magical benefits. And so that's the reason why we spent the past 9 months formulating them. And it's always so funny, right? I mean, like you see a product on the shelf, you're like, oh, it's really nice and it tastes good and whatever. But very few people really know what the work that goes behind the scenes in order to make it all happen. But anyway, it's all for you guys to enjoy it. So why don't we just start off with a little bit of context on digestive bitters. And Robin says, I didn't do well with digestive bitters. So Robin says, I'm going to talk a little bit about that because I do have some other digestive bitters from like competitors, and I'm not going to, no need for names, but I want to address this in just a second. But so thank you for sharing that. And that's part of the reason why we formulated them in a different way, because a lot of people have been finding them either to be too strong, or the alcohol content was too high, or like finding like a burning sensation. Robin, if you could tell us a little bit more about when you say didn't do well, what kind of symptoms did you have and what wasn't working for you? So first of all, I always like to start off by looking at an herb or solution from a perspective of traditions. Like, how do we use this for centuries and generations in different culinary or herbal circles around the world? And here's an interesting thing, herbal digestive bitters have had a place for centuries and for really good reasons. So let me give you a couple of examples. For instance, for those of you who've maybe been to Italy, North Italy, maybe gone skiing in the Alps, and when you, a lot of the Italians have a drink in the middle of the day when they go skiing. Not such a great thing to do, but they do. And then when you look at the tables, in a skiing resort, it's like everybody's got these orange drinks, right? And that orange drink that you see on the tables is Campari. And so Campari, unfortunately, today's formulation of Campari is really bastardized, and it's not something I recommend. It's super synthetic. It's not, but the original Campari and the whole idea of an aperitif is basically bitters that are infused into alcohol, and you having them before a meal. Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm sure there's an element of, having a bit of alcohol and having a nice drink and getting a little tipsy before having a fun meal. But the bigger purpose of that, and in monasteries, for example, monks, where there's a big, history of digestive bitters, and including beer that was brewed not from hops, but from a lot of very different, very, very bitter herbs, including all sorts of like mugwort, for example, motherwort. Was that it was an appreciation that the monks had in bringing in those bitters before having a meal. And so, some of you might have had German friends or you've been to Germany, and the Germans like to do a Jägermeister after a meal, right? And so, and again, German meals typically, are very heavy and meaty and oily, right? And so having a really nice, digestive bitter after a meal really helps to digest everything a lot better. And I'm going to talk about the medicinal benefits in just a second. For those of you who've been to India, you've been to an Indian restaurant, more traditional Indian restaurant, you might find a little condiments on the side. And a lot of times these condiments are made from a green mango skin, which is very bitter, and it comes with like chilies and a lime rind sometimes, and you have that as a sort of that bitter that goes with the meal, again because of the medicinal benefits of doing that. So it's quite amazing that pretty much throughout all cultures we've been using bitters. And just as I was talking about beers, I just had just something that I actually forgot about bitters in beer. Before we started brewing them with hops, it was the church that made people, made brewers brew things with hops because they were basically making us more sleepy, and hops are definitely a sedative herb, and so in order to calm everybody down, subdue us a little bit, versus beer that was brewed from very, very bitter herbs, they were also very stimulating. So it's kind of interesting, the role of the church in switching us over from the bitters to hops. And hops on its own also have some bitter qualities in them as well. So what I wanted to share with you is and Giselle, we're going to be talking about the difference between digestive enzymes and digestive bitters, because what you're talking about are enzymes, and that's a very different role from digestive bitters. Tamara is asking about what brand. Well, Tamara, I'm going to be talking about my brand because we just launched it and we spent 9 months formulating them. So here are the digestive bitters. And Jean, if you can post the link to our page on the bitters, so you guys can read a little bit more about it, what's in them and all that. So let's talk about the first big benefit of digestive bitters. And, you know, the biggest thing, it just improves a lot of your digestion. So it increases your enzymatic secretion. It increases your stomach acid. Let me give you an example. So let me start off with doing a little demo using our before digestive bitters. So it's lighter in color, and it says here before. And so 4 squirts is your dose, is your 1 serving. I'm just gonna do 2. So immediately as I'm doing this, I got so much saliva now in my mouth, right? And the saliva is important because saliva contains something called amylase. Amylase is what digests your carbohydrates. So, for example, if I'm having a sandwich, a gluten-free sandwich after doing this talk, having sufficient saliva is going to help to break down the carbohydrates that are found in the bread and whatever else that I'm having on a sandwich, right? But then what happens, it sends a whole cascade then to the bitters, then go down to the stomach acid. It stimulates the stomach to produce its own stomach acid. Then it stimulates the pancreas to produce the various enzymes to break down your proteins as well as fats, right? And so it's not surprised that people who digestive bitters always say that they feel like the food is not sitting in their stomach forever. It just goes through, you know, it feels so much lighter, right? And that brings me to the second point, and that is the fact that when you improve your digestion that way, and all the juices are there to help you digest the food, so then what happens is you can mitigate constipation. So constipation is something that is very common with so many women who have digestive problems, and as well as hormonal problems. One of the things about estrogen dominance is that one of the big problems about constipation is that when you don't evacuate things on a regular basis, all those estrogens are being recirculated back into your body, right? And that's what can cause severe symptoms of estrogen dominance. So having a really well-moving digestion is incredibly important. The other thing is that you find ginger in our formulations. And the reason why we put ginger in there is because ginger also helps with the peristalsis of the intestines, which means the movement of the food. And that's part of the reason why experiencing less constipation can be super helpful in when you take digestive bitters. Constipation can be really resolved pretty quickly. All right, let's talk about the second benefit, and that is better bile production. So one of the things that digestive bitters will do, it will stimulate your liver to produce more bile and for the gallbladder to release the bile on demand, meaning when you eat something fatty. So for example, if I'm having a sandwich after this call and it's going to have some mayo on it and it's going to have maybe some sardines on it, right? And then avocado, there's quite a lot of fat in there. Those are all really great fats, but it is a fatty meal. Then what would happen is I need a really good dose of bile being released in order to break everything down. Otherwise, I'm gonna feel really crammy, sleepy, tired. My digestion is not gonna move. And then I might also see fat in my stool. Like, some of you might poop and you actually see fat floating on top of the bowl. And so top of the water, right? in a bowl, toilet bowl. So that's when it is a sign that you're not digesting your fats really well. And this is where the bile is so helpful in helping you to break down those foods. Now, here's a big thing about that. The bile is not just good for digesting the fats, but also remember that for you to produce HDL cholesterol, which is the good form of cholesterol, that cholesterol, HDL cholesterol, is the building block for all your steroid hormones, which means your cortisol, progesterone, DHEA, testosterone, estrogens are all produced from HDL cholesterol. And so if you are not absorbing and digesting fats very well, then your hormone production is always going to be compromised. So how digestive bitters help is that they help you release that bile so you can digest those fats really effectively. And that way you have the building material, if you will, for all your hormones, your steroid hormones. The other thing about bile, which is huge, and that brings me to the next benefit of digestive bitters, is with estrogen metabolism. Something that a lot of people don't realize is that when you release that bile that I talked about, bile not just helps with fat metabolism, but it also helps to bind up dirty estrogens. For those of you who are not familiar, estrogen dominance is one of the leading hormonal imbalances in women. So if you're experiencing things like thyroid nodule, endometriosis, having fibroids, uterine polyps, fibrocystic and lumpy breasts, if you're having, history of having a lot of period problems, right? Absent periods, irregular periods, very heavy periods, terrible PMSs. Those are estrogenic cancers like estrogen receptor positive breast cancer, thyroid cancer, lung cancer in smoke smokers, ovarian cancer, uterine cancer. Those are all forms of estrogenic cancers. And guess what? These are the dirty estrogens that cause the growth of the malignant tissue and the tumor tissue. And one of the cool things about, so circling back to digestive bitters, so that when they release the bile binds up the dirty estrogens, the ones that are causing all your health issues. And so that's, I'll never forget how this was about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years ago. I posted a link on. I posted a question in our community asking women, when you had your gallbladder removed, did you experience symptoms of estrogen dominance soon after? And if you did, when? And it was really, it was a pretty emotional post because many of you came on and you left a lot of comments, not realizing that within 3 months to 6 months after having the gallbladder removed, a lot of symptoms of estrogen dominance started manifesting. And that's not surprising because, like I said, when your gallbladder is removed, the bile is not as readily available. And so the binding up of dirty estrogens isn't very effective in happening. And when you bind up those estrogens, then you poop them out, right? So that's another reason why the bitters can really help tremendously with that. So let's move on to another one, and that is, lowering of inflammation in the gut. So one of the wonderful things about digestive bitters is that they lower inflammation. One of the mechanisms behind it, like if you talk about like really purely on biochemical level, is that digestive bitters or bitters in general as a taste stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is really fascinating because so your nervous system has got the one part of it has got the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So your sympathetic is, let me start off with parasympathetic is when is basically your rest and digest, right? So you hug someone, you hug your pet, you hug your partner, you have sex, you have a favorite meal, you get good news, right? This is all, you get a massage, you get in a sauna. All of those stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system. It's like the rest and digest part of your nervous system, which is excellent. Your hormones get produced, all your digestive juices get produced during that time. Your body rejuvenates itself. Your growth hormone gets produced when you sleep, when you're in a parasympathetic nervous system. And that's the one that bitters stimulate, which is just so amazing. On the other hand, the sympathetic nervous system, right, is the opposite. It's your fight and flight. part of the nervous system. So, which is necessary for you to avoid danger, right? But in the long term, in a prolonged, can cause to autoimmune diseases, a lot of inflammation, lack of sleep, and it just your whole health goes to shits, basically. So that's what I love about the digestive bitters, is that research shows that there's a connection, that they stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system. And that's part of the, and it makes also sense if you think about it, that why for so many years we've been using them is because when you squirt them, you take them, your body's like in a relaxed state in order to digest. How many of you here have experienced, when you experience stress, you can't eat? Your whole digestion just shuts down, right? And that's because that's your sympathetic nervous system speaking. So digestive bitters lower that and engage the parasympathetic. So when you're in that rest and relax state, that's when the overall inflammation in the body goes down. But it's also the inflammation in your gut also gets reduced, and preparing the body for basically less stress and preparing it for digestion. Sorry. The fifth benefit of digestive bitters is that it reduces your acid reflux. So if you follow me for a while, you know that acid reflux is caused by insufficient stomach acid and not too much stomach acid. Yeah. How many of you do not, or how many of you do know that? Just say yes. And so a lot of people don't realize that, because when you have stomach acid, they give you, your blockers, right? Your stomach acid blockers, and which is another topic altogether. I don't want to discuss this today. But you know how I said just now when I squirted it, there's a lock on it, so I need to unlock it. When I squirted it into my mouth, immediately, like I said, I got so much saliva going on, and that saliva is gonna also send us a message. Sorry, the bitters is all gonna send a message to the stomach to produce more stomach acid, and you need good amount of stomach acid in order to create a barrier away from parasites, bacteria, to digest food better, to extract all the amazing nutrients that you're putting from the expensive organic food that you're buying, right? All of that is really necessary in order to have a really good digestion. So this is one of the wonderful things, is that when your stomach acid improves, and most of us are, as somebody's saying here, that it's all about balance. Yes, that is true. However, most people have too low stomach acids. Very few people have too much stomach acid. That's typically not a problem. And so just regulating that. And by the way, bitters, if you have a high stomach acid or sufficient stomach acid, digestive bitters are not gonna increase it so much so that you have too much stomach acid and it's going to cause you hurt. It doesn't quite work that way. I'm going to be talking about precautions or counterindications in just a second, but that won't be one of them. Then the other benefit is it potentially activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So I talked about that already, how it just relaxes you in so many different ways. And we have also a couple of herbs. One interesting herb here that might actually you might find quite surprising is we're using catnip. And so many of you will know catnip in our, as if you have a cat, right? You know what the cat does when you have, when you put catnip in front of a cat, right? So that's what a lot of people know catnip for. But catnip is in a mint family, and is also an amazing relaxer for your whole nervous system. And guess what? We want to calm down your nervous system in order for you to digest things better. So that's part of the reason why we're using catnip, not because we want your cat to be drinking our digestive bitters. The other amazing benefit is, and by the way, Jeannie, if we can put the link to our digestive bitters, because if you're interested in research, there's a lot of research that we have put out there together. So another amazing benefit is that it lowers blood sugar levels. And so there is a study that we have of 480 overweight patients, and how much that the results of them using a bitter herb was comparable to another group. They're using metmorphin, and some of you may know metmorphin as being when somebody has got diabetes, for example, is put on metmorphin. Problem with metmorphin is that it does create obviously a lot of side effects, like most medications do. And this was a 12-week study, so it's really pretty fascinating. how the bitters have had a comparable result with metmorphin in controlling blood sugar levels. And that's part of the reason why I love doing, that's why we formulated that before, so that, you know, even if you have a little bit, say, carbohydrate-rich meal, your blood sugar levels wouldn't spike up. It curbs sugar cravings. So that's another really cool thing, is that what we have found is that bitters help to offset our brain receptors to get too excited over sugar. And one of the things I want to tell you about our after formulation here. So we have the after a meal, is that the after is formulated in it's slightly sweeter than the before. So I'm going to talk about the formula in just a second, but the before is a little bit more bitter. The after is sweeter. And the reason why we formulated it this way is because my wish for you is when you take our digestive bitter, you, after a meal, right, and you go like, oh, I could do a cookie, or I want to have something sweet. And you go like, wait, let me just do the digestive bitters Magdalena has been talking about. And you go, and you go, oh, wow, okay. Well, this is kind of feels like a little dessert. So we formulated this like as if you were having a mini dessert, but without the sugar. And not only do the bitters curb your sugar cravings and work that part of the brain, but it's also, the other thing I love about it is the fact that it itself is sweet from the glycerin, but without giving you any sugar spikes itself. And that just is, you know, it's like a little mini dessert experience we're creating for you, but without having to crave a dessert after a meal. So the ninth benefit of digestive bitters is liver support. So in our formulations, both the before and after, we have some heavy hitters here, like burdock root and dandelion root. We're also using endographis. I've been talking about endographis a couple of weeks ago. You know, and endographis it's like a really dirty bitter, not a pleasant bitter, but you won't taste it in here because the way we formulated it with other herbs and with a bit of glycerin and water, it really creates a wonderful taste. And so I want to tell you about the taste in just a second. So the liver loves bitters, you guys, right? If you are not doing this yet, please, you know, incorporate as many bitters as you can to your diet. So for example, stop using lettuce in your salads if you're doing salads instead, or things like cucumbers and zucchinis. They're kind of low on the nutritional value, but instead incorporate things like arugula and bitter greens and some radishes and turnips, right, into your diet. All those bitter qualities are going to be in a huge way supporting your liver. In the United States, in America, people like to do these detoxes once, twice a year, and they, you know, and they starve themselves and they go through these huge withdrawals and all of that. And I think it's nice sometimes to do that kind of a reset. I do that sometimes too. But the thing is about what I like about digestive bitters is like you're doing a cleanup every day of your liver, sorry. And so this is a comparable to me with, you know, like somebody saying, I just clean my house twice a year, like on Boxing Day and maybe in spring, right? I mean, just imagine what your house would look like if you just were doing a cleanup twice a year, right? Instead, I mean, every probably week or every other week, you have somebody maybe coming to your house, and maybe it's you cleaning the house every week, right? And that's how you maintain some kind of order and cleanliness in the house. And so I feel with the digestive bitters and supporting your liver is the little things like the digestive bitters, like incorporating bitter foods into your diet, that gives you like the daily detox without having to rely on some crazy, you know, fasting detox once or twice a year. We also have some research that's going to show you connection to healthy skin. We have found research that links, not surprising, the detoxification of the liver with a lot of skin conditions, including liver rashes, we call it, or jaundice skin, but also psoriasis, which oftentimes psoriasis is linked to liver support. So I would say it's an indirect benefit of that. And lastly, just want to mention that we have research that we have also found really fascinating, actually, and I'm sure there's going to be more coming out, that our ovaries have receptors for bitters, which is really fascinating. We have receptors in different parts on our body for bitters. And the question is, why do we have receptors in the ovaries for bitters? And the answer is that is because it's going to help women. So it helps tremendously women who have PCOS And I think part of the indirectly is because bitters help with blood sugar balance, and a lot of women with PCOS, it is a blood sugar dysregulation, metabolic dysregulation that happens. So that's probably one of the ways that it works, but also, you know, we don't really know exactly why we have those digestive receptors in the ovaries. But the fact that we do, it tells us that there is something that a body needs in order to benefit from that. So anyway, so this is this just those are some of the benefits, right, of digestive bitters. And I want to show you, I just want to show you the kind of like the behind the scenes, because you might find it interesting or you might find it boring. I don't know. Oh, by the way, we're having the special that we have right now going on is that you can get both of these bitters together with our linen bag. And I forgot to bring my linen bag to show you, but it's, let me actually show you what it looks like so that you can, let me just share my screen. So what we have for you as a special is the digestive bitters, and I want to show you the baggie. So you see this bag right here, this one here. So you're gonna get, when you're getting the 2 of those digestive bitters from us, you're also getting the organic, fair trade cotton bag that will basically hold the digestive bitters in there. I want to give you couple of, I want to share with you a few things also from, since I'm on this website here, that I think you might find interesting. Well, one is I did a skit with my girlfriends about other products that are in the market, and somebody mentioned earlier that she didn't have a good results with bitters. So I want to talk about this in a second. I'm not sure if she responded to my question. So I just want to show you a few things here, what is going to help you with. You guys can read through this. Now, the difference between the before and the after is that the before a meal, so this one here, the lighter one, is more like it fires up your digestion. It helps you with a strong enzymatic activity. It's got a strong liver support because it's more bitter, but it's still a very rounded, bitter profile. It's actually, I typically don't blow my own horn, but you know what? In this one here, I'm going to be completely shameless and say it tastes bloody good. I have some competitor product here, and this is one of the things you will see in that video skit that I just shared. Let me just do like this one here. It's from one of the leading brands that you find in a lot of health food stores and stuff like that, right? And so it's all alcohol based. There's a little bit of water, but it's very ethanol based. Oh, wow. It's like, it's like the first thing that happens, like, it's just that ethanol, that alcohol just takes over. It's like, when you have like a cheap tequila kind of a thing, and that kind of alcohol is just like, yuck. And then it's got a lot of these bitters. So it's definitely going to help with digestion. The issue is that a lot of people just don't like this, and it's not a very sustainable, like if you don't like something, it's hard to force yourself to take this every day, right? So this is the reason why we formulated the before and the after in a way that is just really rounded, and it's just delicious. I mean, it really is. And when we were formulating it, we worked really for months to figure out a way of how much alcohol, glycerin, and water to put in, what herbs to combine it with, so that we don't lose the digestive fire in them, but yet make them taste really good. And what else can we put in to balance out the flavors? And so every drop, if I take this formula and just add, let's say, another drop of fennel into this, the fennel will just completely destroy everything. So it was such a delicate balance in order to find that. Anyway, it's just behind the scenes. You might find it interesting, you might not, but it was just a lot of labor. So I thought I'll share this with you. And then after the meal, which is this one here, it's a little bit more like it's a relax and digest. This is where the catnip is, and it activates your parasympathetic nervous system. It's a milder liver support, and it's sweeter in profile, and is a lot more. It's got is a dessert-like profile that I talked about. Another thing I want to share with you, which I think is really so fascinating. Let me just see if I can make this smaller. I can't make this smaller. Okay, damn. But I created this wheel, and just to show you, look at that. Digestive aid, liver detoxification, and bile flow support, right? Then you have anti-inflammatory here, Then you have adaptogenic and then nervine. That's the one that helps you engage your parasympathetic nervous system, right? And then here you have supports the immune system. So, you know, as you probably know, different herbs have different properties. So for example, ginseng, which is found in our before, it tends to be a very bitter herb. But as you can see here, it's not just, it's a digestive aid, but it's also a liver support aid. It's also an anti-inflammatory, and it also supports your immune system, you know. One of my absolute favorites in here, that's just a personal preference, like it's something that, it's an herb that I'm really drawn towards. I can't live without it. Every time I run out, I'm like, oh my God, I ran out. I should be on subscription to never run out. It's Schisandra. Schisandra is a berry from Siberia, and it's got this really amazing taste of being sour and tiny bitter and salty and sweet, and it's just got this incredible resilience from the Siberian taiga to tundra to pass on to us in terms of resilience. So it does help with liver detoxification. It's got some incredible studies on that, but it also helps. Look at that. It's also an adaptogenic as a nervine, Schisandra. And guess what? It also supports your immune system here. So like I said, you know, Siberia, really tough environment. A lot of times herbs that grow in these kind of environments, that resilience, they pass it on to us as humans. So we mapped the different herbs for you here, depending on whether it's before and after, so you can understand like the whole spectrum of benefits you're getting from this, not just like a little thing that you squirt before a meal. There's so many more benefits that you stand to gain from doing digestive bitters. I want to also show you like the scale, the difference between them, because I know you guys are going to be asking about that. So I want to share with you, in terms of flavor profile, before is definitely more bitter than after, right? And then in terms of liver support, because of the stronger bitter profile, before is stronger, then after is gentler. And then in terms of stimulating the digestive fire, before is definitely going to be stronger, and after is slightly gentler. So then there is some video, and then we have an explanation of every one of these herbs here. So for example, in the before bitters, we're using things like ginseng, which is a very classical digestive fire creating herb in the traditional Chinese medicine. Like I mentioned, we have Schisandra, my absolute favorite. We have Angelica, Archangel here, ginger for just a really wonderful ways to also move your bowels. Rosemary, great for the brain too. Sweet meadow, we've got the clove to warm up this formula so your body doesn't get too cold. In the after formulation, we have the classical burdock. We have Angelica here again. We use anise, which is just, you know, just gives you this really wonderful aniseedy taste, like after a nice dessert. Like if you've ever been to an Indian restaurant, they offer you a bunch of herbs in that, right, to chew on, and anise oftentimes is one of them. We also use endographis. I've talked about endographis for the past 2 weeks ago. What an incredible herb it is. It's a very bitter, it's a dirty bitter herb, but when you combine it with other herbs, it's tolerable. Catnip, and which is the one I was telling you about, it is really great at calming your nervous system. It's not for your cat here. Chamomile, and again, this is for calming down your nervous system while you digest. You digest way better, you know, when you are in a parasympathetic nervous system state, right? And then we also have fennel here, just a tiny bit of fennel in there. So yeah, so this is you know, this is what the product looks like. And just maybe a couple of things I want to share with you is, you know, I want to tell you about the process of creating these is really interesting, because, you know, if for those of you here, who here is an herbalist, like if you, so some of you who might be a seasoned herbalist, you may know that digestive bitters should not be used, like for example, in these formulas, right? You know, these brand A, brand B, they tend to, they are not recommended to be taken in the long term. The reason why that happens is because when you're taking a lot of bitters in, they do two things. One is that they cool down your body, so they are very cooling for the body, and number two is that they're also very drying. So the And so how many of you here, maybe you can relate to this, how many of you here have maybe taken an herbal formula before and you've experienced that after like maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks of taking these herbs, now your skin is really dry, you're having constipation problems, you're not feeling too great, like your skin like literally itches, right? And it's beginning to like flake, right? And it's like you do this and you go like skin flying off. I've had that before. And so, you know, and sometimes we need those bitters for a short period of time because that's really it's gonna help you. But if you do something on a long-term basis, then that's not recommended. And so these digestive bitters, like that's what's available in the market, they definitely should not be taken in a long term. But we wanted to create something that, you know, you put this in the Wellena cotton bag, you put this in your purse, you bring it everywhere with you. It's a really cool thing also to like pass around during a party and, you know, or having like when we get back to having meals with friends and family and like passing this around, letting people taste. And it's a really wonderful experience. And people go like, wow, you know, it's really like, I feel my digestion is so much better. It works so fast. It's incredible. But here's the thing. We wanted to create a long-term solution for it so you can use it long-term. And the reason, and the way we have done it is that we did two things. We've added herbs that are, of course, we're using those herbs like burdock, for example. Endographis are very cooling, very drying. But we're also using herbs that warm up your body. So, for example, fennel and clove and ginger are very warming. If they are drying, then we also use herbs that are demulcent, which means that they re-moisturize your body, right? So in that way, we formulated that in a very balanced way, so you don't get those side effects in any way. Okay, so let me just dive into questions. Thank you so much. Many of you here have Gazella saying, "Wow, great ingredients, love it." Yeah, thank you. If you know a little bit about herbs, they really are. Yeah, I'm really proud of this formula. I will say, you know, it's something that it's not just the time of formulating that, but it's also, I think, the outcome that I'm really happy with. Brenda is saying, I would love to learn and practice and possibly do potty when things allow. Yeah. You know, when I was in Italy a couple of years ago in summer, so this is before COVID, and I had some other digestive bitters, and I had like Schisandra, for example, and I'll pass it around to people I was having meals with. And, you know, it was just amazing, like how people respond so positively to it and like really love it. Unless it's like a disgusting formula, just like wrenches your mouth, right? Then you wouldn't want to do it. Vivian is asking, are these available in Canada? And Vivian, we're working on it, on making it available in Canada. So yes, very soon we will have that ready. Can someone take digestive bitters while on chemotherapy? Marinin is asking, I can't comment on that. You need to check with your oncologist. Yeah, so I forgot to talk about contraindications. So a couple of people should not be taking digestive bitters. Number one, if you currently have gastric ulcers, if you are, well, if you're from an alcoholic, it is alcohol based. And so I wouldn't recommend it. And then the other thing would be pregnant and lactating women should also not be doing digestive bitters. Part of it is because there are herbs in here that can have different effects on the uterus, can be fennel, for example, is anti-lactative, so you stop lactating. So that's for that reason is not recommended. Jean is saying here that for Canada right now we're using myus.com. But I know that my team is working on shipping to Canada, you guys, so just stay tuned for that. If you're on our mailing list, then we will make an announcement to Canadians when we are able to ship it there. So just get on our mailing list and we'll tell you there. Brenda is asking, how can I get the chart? Hey, Brenda, so it's on our sales page for the bitter. So you can just, I guess, just do a screenshot if that helps you. Or just email my team. Depends what you want to use it for. So please give us credit if you were using it for somewhere, for some publications, and you can ask my team to email you the file. Nicolette is saying, wish I could buy your products in the UK. Love your cookbook. Looking forward to getting the new one. Yeah, thank you, Nicolette. So yeah, myus.com is a good place. But we also, we are going to be shipping the book internationally. And this time around, I'm publishing the book myself, so we have a lot more flexibility of how we want to ship it. Before I didn't have that freedom. Brenda is saying, so bitter and mint to keep balance needed. Yeah, I would say so. That's a big part of that for sure. Giselle is saying you should be proud when you're providing a complete natural product. You need more products that are natural. Sure, it's I agree. Jean, have you posted the link to the Digestive Bitters where they can order that from? Megan is asking, would this help with someone who has low methylation and high estradiol according to Dutch test? Yes. So Megan, really great question. Part of the reason why we have, the more methylation problems you have, the more you want to support your liver, right? So yes, digestive bitters are there to support the liver, and high estradiol, you can skew the balance towards from estradiol. Well, if you did Dutch test, then you don't really see estradiol alone. You see the markers that are more important to see is the metabolites of estrone. And so the more you work on your liver, the more you're going to be able to balance them out and break them down more effectively, more towards the protective estrogen metabolites. Yeah, so a lot of comments. I'm not going to read out the guys. Thank you so much for like so many really nice comments. Thank you for your support. And yeah, so let's see what else is coming. Patricia is saying she's late to the live. I want to take I take it before eating, right? So Patricia, we've got the before and after, so you can. This is the before, this is the after, so we've got one for each for you to get a full benefit. And you guys don't feel like you don't need to obsess in terms of, like if you forgot to take it before a meal, which I often do, I forget because I'm so excited about eating, I forgot to squirt, then it's okay, it's not a big deal. Just do the after, right? The other thing is sometimes we get questions about like, can you put this in a glass of water and have it from a drink? And the answer is yes, you can, but the results are not going to be the same. The reason is that you need the strength of the bitters to hit you, the concentration, in order to release the kind of enzymatic cascade, something you're not going to get from water. It makes the water taste good, but it's not going to be as effective. Okay, so I just a quick note. Our book was stuck, like everything else, in cargo somewhere in the Midwest, and we just arrived at the warehouse. So we are getting ready for shipping it to Amazon. Amazon is not allowing us to do pre-orders. We still can't figure out why. It's always a mystery and a black big hole to communicate with them. And so anyway, we can't do pre-orders. I'm sorry about that. We get a lot of questions about that. But the good news is that we're going to be launching on the 10th of March, and we're hoping that the book is going to be in Amazon by then. It better be. It's I feel like the whole world's kind of going upside down right now with all the weather changes and whether it is the retrograde and, whatever is the reason. But anyway, I want to wish you a really good preparation for the weekend. Look at the weather out in my place, and we are like in the middle of a winter storm. But you know what? We need this. Like, we need this moisture. It's very inconvenient to have all that snow dumping on you overnight, but we need that moisture. I am so terrified for this summer because I feel like it's just so dry out here. It's warmer than ever before. We've had fires this past summer like crazy. So I'm really excited about having this kind of weather so that we can get a little bit more, of the moisture that the plants need to survive. All right, you guys, And wishing you great coming up weekend. Do something nice and healing for yourself. Cook a really nice meal. Incorporate some bitters, whether it's in form of bitter herbs, vegetables that I talked about, whether you want to put in an order for our digestive bitters and feel the difference. You know, it's all going to be really going to make a big difference in your life. Lori's asking, where are you? I'm in Boulder, Colorado. I'm up in the Rocky Mountains, just outside of Boulder, up high in the mountains. All right, everybody, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for all your support always, for all the lovely questions and for your presence here. And I will see you next week. Bye for now.